Did you ever wonder what's on the other side of fear and worry? Let's talk about that. When I was 10 or 11 years old, I was left alone. Well, my parents ran out to the store. They weren't gone really long, maybe a half an hour. And I felt really misunderstood as a child, and I was always depressed and anxious. I had two older sisters. My grandmother lived with us. Our house was really chaotic. And so when I was left there by myself, with my own thoughts and nobody else to distract me, I was walking through the hallway upstairs from my bedroom to head downstairs, and I saw a pair of scissors on this dresser, like this counter in the hallway. And I actually picked up the scissors and thought about jamming them in my wrist. I'm like 10 or 11 years old, and then I put them down real quick and was like freaked out that I was like, what's wrong with me? Why did I even think that? Uh, I've always had anxiety like that. When I used to go to amusement parks and they have those sky lifts, those rides, or like even a ski lift. I've never been skiing, but it's a similar thing. I was always afraid, like, what if I stand up and jump out of this thing? What if I just lose my mind and jump out of this? I was always so anxious and fearful and worried. And my whole family was like that. So as I grew up, I just wanted to get rid of those feelings anyway, as fast as I could. When I hit like 12 and 13, I already had friends who were drinking and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed and all that stuff. So I just started doing that. Whenever I had the chance, I would try to escape some way, anyway, anyhow I could get out of the feelings in my body, I would do it. So I used drugs and alcohol all through my teens. When I turned 20, I became a Christian and I quit smoking cigarettes. Obviously, I stopped taking drugs, and I rarely drank. I want to say I quit drinking because I would actually go years at a time and not drink. Once in a while, I might have a couple beers or something, but I wasn't anywhere near like I used to be. So I got married at a young age. I was 23. I got my girlfriend then pregnant. And even though I wasn't in love with her, I married her because it was the Christian thing to do and the right thing to do. And I love my kids, so I don't regret having my kids or anything, but her and I just were not good together. So we got divorced in my early 30s, and I was really heartbroken about my kids and everything. And I went back to drinking. It happened slowly, but then it escalated again. And before I knew it, I was drinking. I quit my job. I was an x-ray tech, and I made pretty good money as an x-ray technologist, working at major hospital, like big hospitals. And I just started playing music again because I've been a musician my whole life, and I started doing stand-up comedy. And I really went down this path of almost hedonism to some degree. I still had contact with my kids, and I saw them all the time, and that gave me some solace, like that I wasn't that bad of a person or a father or whatever. But yeah, I just really judged myself, and being brought up as a Catholic and in the home I was brought up in, man, I was just so anxious, like I said. So I know what it's like. If anybody knows what it's like to be fearful and worried, it's me. So I started listening to different people on YouTube. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Abraham Hicks, a lot of teachers, and I learned a lot, and I got a lot of different perspectives. Even some different Christian teachers like Dan Mohler, and I started changing my perspective about life. Not that I don't believe in Jesus anymore or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. So I started studying the science of our psychology and our biology in a different manner, like realizing everything really is vibrations and electricity and magnetism. I mean, we are electromagnetic beings. That's just a fact. There's no question about it. Everything around us is atoms and molecules and is moving around constantly. There's no question about that. Wi-Fi. There's all kinds of things we can't see. A lot of us think seeing is believing, and I really think believing is seeing. So one thing I've discovered, which has been such a blessing and so helpful to me, is that true freedom isn't changing our thoughts. It's just realizing that we're not our thoughts. We mistake the constant mental chatter that we all have in our heads for who we are. That is not who we are. Those are just temporary emotions, feelings, physiology things going through us that make us feel and sense different emotions and even physical sensations. But that is not who we are. When we step back and see the mind as background noise and stop identifying with it, it really brings us peace. When we just realize it's static and it's always going to be there, and we don't have to react or respond to every little thought, every little emotion that arises, it is such a relief. Every time I start something new, I struggle with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, question myself. I think we all do. I think most people do at least. And then you start thinking, I don't know if I'm able to do this. What will other people think? What if I fail? It'll be embarrassing. You've never done this before. I mean, just the barrage of negative thoughts. And the more I fight against these thoughts and try to control them, the louder they get. And eventually you feel, or at least I feel, like I'm at war with my own mind. And it gets really frustrating and overwhelming. And nowadays, since I've learned and studied a lot of different spiritual teachings, I realized that I have to stop and regain perspective. One time I read that our minds are like a shaken snow globe, all stormy and chaotic, and we're here trying to run around, make sense out of the falling snow and put it in its right place. But if we just stop and watch it, the snow slowly settles. And it doesn't disappear. It's not like the snow disappears. The snow just calms down because we finally stopped shaking the globe. And that's what we do with our minds. And that's how our thoughts work. We can't fight against them or control them. If we stop holding on and identifying with them, they will settle on their own. I think that's a great metaphor. Peace is behind whatever's occurring in my life, no matter what thoughts, emotions, or situations, circumstances, no matter what's going on. Behind it all, there's peace. At the moment, I might not like what's happening, but ultimately there's peace behind it. I also try to remember that anxiety and excitement create the same physical sensations in our body. And the only difference between the two is what label we put on them. So when I'm feeling anxious, I try to just focus on the fact that I'm excited. I was feeling anxious before I did this video, but I'm excited about doing it. And I think as we learn to put the right labels on things and to not label things at all, a little bit of both, that our lives become much more manageable. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I appreciate you.